Hello.
Hello.
For start, tell us a few things about yourself.
Well, my name's Aaron Chambers. I go by the online tag Ayesee. I work for Twitch TV now. Actually, a good game agency, which was acquired by Twitch TV going back to, I guess it was last December. I'm a professional Dota 2 commentator. I do a lot of other broadcast design, a whole lot of broadcasting and other spaces as well. But for the most part, for the last 3.5 years, I've been a professional Dota 2 commentator full time.
So how did you start casting games?
Well, going back a few years ago, I lived and worked in the city I went to college, and I owned a small business. And it was okay, it was going okay, but I woke up every day not happy. I was just never happy with what I was doing. I had worked in radio for 5 years, so I had radio broadcast experience. And I decided to get out of that business and to instead go into something that made me happy. I kind of sat back and decided, okay, you're in your mid-20s now. Let's figure out where your life's going to be for the next 50 years. And it was right around that time that StarCraft 2 had just come out, was really beginning to rise in popularity. And I had played the original Brood War StarCraft going back years and years and years. So I looked at that, and the professional scene was really just beginning to come up and really beginning to come into its own, so to speak. So I watched those broadcasts, and I said, this is something I can do. This is something that I know I can bring my expertise and my experience into and do it a different way. I can do it not necessarily better, but to a standard that I thought that should be elevated to. So I got into broadcasting then, working for a very, very small company. And everything just it went slow to begin with, but everything kind of blew up right around 2012. That's when Dota 2 was still in beta, and I decided to, instead of commentate StarCraft, I was going to give Dota 2 a try. I had never played a game of Dota 2 in January of 2012. I had never commentated a game of Dota 2 until March of 2012. And then after I did one tournament, Ice Frog reached out to me and asked me to cast the International. So my first major LAN casting was TI2. So from that point on, I started working with Evil Geniuses, full-time doing tournaments and the such, and everything just kind of took off from there. So I've been doing that again since right around 2012.
If you wouldn't have followed this path of casting, what else would you have been doing at this point in time?
I would like to think back in radio. Like the way I've always felt is I'm two things. I'm a gamer and a broadcaster. I've always been a broadcaster first, though. Like, gaming's my number one hobby, has been for as long as I can remember, going back to being 5 years old and playing the original Nintendo with my babysitter, So I've always loved gaming, but broadcasting, the ability to get in front of a microphone, to entertain people, to talk, to try to put across enthusiasm and excitement, that's always been my biggest driving force, and what I knew I loved and what I knew I should be doing with my life. So if I wasn't in gaming, I'd probably still be doing something on radio, commentating NFL games or something.
In your opinion, is gaming a mainstream thing now, or do you still think like it's a niche thing?
It depends on where you are. In the United States, though, no doubt about it, it's more mainstream than not. Like, every survey that comes out, every feature that talks about that issue tells you that there are more gamers than non-gamers in the country. Like, more than, I want to say it's like 60% of people say they spend hours a week playing some game, even if it's just Farmville, even if it's online poker, no matter what it is. Gaming is gaming. It's digital entertainment. And I think it is mainstream. In terms of what we do with eSports, there's still a lot of room to grow and a whole lot of room for us to mature as an industry. But we're seeing that happen in front of our eyes right now. So far as eSports and competitive gaming and that becoming as mainstream as, say, soccer or football or baseball, it's going to take a long time. I mean, those sports have been around for decades and decades and decades, while this industry and Twitch TV has only been around for a few years at this level. So we still have a long way to go, but we will get there. But in terms of gaming across all forms, without a doubt, it's mainstream.
Speaking of esports, what do you think are some of the steps people have to take to evolve this phenomenon?
It seems like there's a lot of money in esports. We're not there yet. Like, we see these big prize pools and we see, stadiums filled with people, but these only happen a small time each year, In terms of trying to push the industry ahead as a whole, there has to be some centralization involved. Like, there's going to be a time when, be it Dota, be it whatever other game comes along, The idea of getting everyone on the same page with the same business model, with the same interests, the same goals, everyone working towards something together, that's going to have to be a natural step. And we don't have that right now. A lot of us collaborate, we work together. Like right now, you've got people from every organization involved in Dota, one way or another. We're all here. We're all working together at this moment for the international. But 340 days out of the year when we're not here, we're all doing our own thing. And of course, we're friends, but we're competitors as well. And that is just us as broadcasting studios and broadcasting personalities. That's to say nothing of the teams, say nothing of the tournaments, say nothing of everyone else. So whenever you look at steps are being taken, like Riot, for example, has an extremely centralized approach to League of Legends. That has its drawbacks, and it makes it hard for people to get into that as compared to Dota or StarCraft, like if you want to commentate or you want to be a pro player. But it does have some major benefits. The players themselves, the commentators, have a much higher standard of living. They're making more money, they have more consistent work. And it's a career. Whereas I feel like in a lot of eSports and a lot of, even in Dota, everyone's trying to make this a full-time career, and everyone, I won't say everyone, but some of those of us who are lucky enough to be kind of near the top, we do it full-time and make a pretty decent living. But there's no security there. There's no guarantee of future prospects if Dota dies or whatever else. So it's kind of multiple conversations that have to take place at once. Like, what do we do with Dota or whatever other game we want to talk about? What's the approach that streaming platforms like Twitch are going to take in the future? And what do we do with this industry as a whole that has all of these different groups, communities, for Dota, for League of Legends, for StarCraft? How do we get everyone on the same page, under the same tent, and move forward together as a unified group? Is it even possible? Is it something we should be trying to do? More than anything, these questions, they come up all the time. I'm not the first person to say them. I'm not that insightful. But the attempt to make a genuine answer, or to give a genuine answer to this and try to make progress, we're just in the fledgling state of that. So there's still a lot of work to do and a whole lot for all of us to figure out.
You mentioned financial incentives and problems in esports. Is it hard or easy making a living out of this?
Very hard. Very, very hard. Like, the vast majority of us that are here at the hub right now, we all toiled in obscurity for years at least, just having to have another job, having to work other things, and put ourselves in a position where we could be where we are. But we are unbelievably fortunate, unbelievably lucky, all of us for our own reasons. I mean, and talent's a part of it, work ethic, that's fine. Everyone who makes it earns it one way or another. But we are such a very fortunate few out of thousands and thousands of thousands all across the world who have just as much passion, who have just as much love for these games, have just as much love for the industry, and it just doesn't work out for them. And I think that's kind of a trend that you see across gaming, like professional gaming, be it a commentator, be it an organizer or whatever. It's a trend that is across the board. Broadcasters, there's a very small number that make, legitimate money, and then a huge fall off to everyone else. Players, very small number that are making legitimate living wage. It's a huge fall off to everyone else. And before we can even begin to talk about maturing the industry in a lot of other ways, we have to figure that out first. Like, how can we guarantee that the people who are doing the work, the people who are putting in the blood and the sweat and the tears to make all of this real, to make all of this happen, how do we make sure that they can do it and not have trouble putting food on the table? Like, these are legitimate issues that oftentimes get ignored in the face of the spectacle. It's awesome to see 20,000 people at Key Arena for TI5, and it's awesome to see all of these teams that are brought together and so on and so on. But how many of those players, even of the 16 best teams in the world, how many of those players are actually making enough money to build a life? How many of them are living in a very cramped house with 8 other people because they want to live their dream? That's not a career. That's that's something you're doing with your life at that moment, but you're not actually building a life at that time. And I think that has to get fixed. We have to figure out how we can take care of all of these people who put in all of this time and this effort and this love, be it players, broadcasters, and what have you. We have to allow people to make money. How awful is it to be in a position where, say, you have a girlfriend, and she gets pregnant, or you have a wife, and she, you get to like my age, like I'm 30, and 30 is very old in this industry by every other standard. I'm 30. I'm considered very old in this industry, and I have a girlfriend, and I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I make plenty of money. But how awful would it be if you're a professional player and your dream above dreams is to do this with your life? but your wife says, you know what, I want to have a child, and you can't, we're not going to have enough money to support a child if you keep this up. How awful is it to think that that happens very frequently? Every year there are players who drop out because they have to choose between their dream and their future. I want to stop that. I want their dream to actually have a chance to finance their future, even if they're not the tip, 1% of 1%. I want to see that, it's those who succeed are always going to do better. But I want to see the ability for people to come into this as a legitimate career and actually not ever face that kind of a decision. It's hard, but I think that's a major step for the industry as a whole.
As a caster, what is the foremost thing, foremost quality you should have to succeed in this business?
You have to do it because you love the work and just be okay. Like, and I'm speaking for, like, as of today, like if there's a caster that's out there somewhere right now that wants to know how to get into this, do it because you love the work, not because you think you're going to make a lot of money. And it's odd because the people who are least concerned with the money early on are the ones who put in the most time, who are always doing every event they can, who are just grinding and grinding and grinding. Those are the people who make it. Like, this industry is full of people who think they want to work in it, but when it comes to actually putting in the 16-hour days for little pay and almost no support, that's always going to be the first step for anyone, because there's no college course you can go to that says how to be an eSports personality. There's no college course you can go to or a high school course that says, oh, here's Twitch TV 101. Like, that doesn't exist. It may someday, but probably not anytime soon. So if you actually want to make a super real run at working in this industry, take any work you can get, no matter what it is, writing articles, doing interviews, whatever, and just work. And if you do it long enough, you will get noticed, because the turnover is so high for people who say, oh, I want to work with gaming. That would be so fun. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's a really, really fun career, but you work your ass off. And the number of people who want to get into gaming compared to the number of people who want to get into gaming and are willing to work their ass off, it's a much smaller percentage. So if you can prove that you're willing to stick with it, you're talented, you develop all of your skill set, you've got a fighting chance. So that's the best advice I can give you, is focus on the work, not on anything else.
Thank you for the interview.
Yep. Thank you very much. You guys are awesome. And thanks to everyone watching at home.